Okay, well, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Average Joe Theology Show, a podcast where we hope to have biblical conversations or conversations about the world from a biblical point of view. I hope you would just join us, a couple of average Joes or everyday guys, just hoping to have some biblical conversations. And the reason we wanted to do this was because I think theology gets a bad rap of being a strictly intellectual or scholarly thing to do, but anyone who talks about God in any way is doing theology. So we hope to accurately portray things and talk about theology in a way that's just easy to understand and hopefully biblically accurate. So, Hunter, what was our inspiration in doing this show, and just kind of why did we think this was necessary?
So a lot of times we, as a friend group, kind of get together, and I say a friend group, so Levi and his wife Kelsey, and then myself, and then my girlfriend Monica, and then our friend Julian, and this is just kind of, or at least we hope that this podcast kind of turns into essentially just an offshoot of what we talk about on a regular basis whenever we get together, because our faith is a very huge part of our lives, and it's really what kind of has kept our friend group together, honestly, because, as we get older and life changes, we kind of drift. But, through Christ and through Cedar Grove, the church that we attend, we've really got to stay together. And Levi's kind of idea was just, why don't we just put this to a podcast? Because, maybe these conversations, while they're beneficial to us, maybe they can be beneficial to other people. Or at least maybe a little bit entertaining. Maybe sometimes we get a little crazy and a little heated, but and then like he was saying that theology is for all believers. I mean, it's for sure. It's very important to unpack what's in this book and to seek to apply it to our everyday lives and try to understand how this would have us essentially view the world and how we should live in it. So that's kind of what our inspiration is.
So our future view is to create a community around this show, or Average Joe Theology in general, and a community of people that can have these conversations. But starting off, it's just me and Hunter. So we kind of wanted to give you guys an introduction of ourselves in this first episode, a story of how God has graciously worked in each of our lives in our testimony, and then just kind of wrap up with the purpose and vision that we have for the show, and I hope you guys are entertained. So, Hunter, tell us all about yourself.
Okay, so you want me to go ahead and just do my intro and then
do an intro
testimony?
and then testimony.
All right, hold on tight, folks. So, a little bit about me. Obviously, we're just some average Joes. That's the whole point of this. I'm an alumni of ETSU, East Tennessee State University. Go Bucks! I got a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor in criminal justice. I work at Nike right now, selling shoes. It's honest work.
Real psychological.
Right, yeah. It's honest work. But I'm looking to have a career in law enforcement. I'm currently in a hiring process for Knoxville Police Department. If you're local, look out for me one day maybe. Or try to avoid me one day maybe. Depends on what side of the law you're on. But I kind of feel that that's God's call on my life. And to kind of get where we are now, give you a little bit of how I grew into this. Essentially, is I didn't really grow up going to church. On occasion, I would attend church with my grandparents, but when I was young, it was boring for me. It was like a reason I had to get out of bed early morning on a Sunday, and I'm like, why do we have to do this? Why can't I just stay here and play video games all day? So as I got older, I can remember there were a lot of times where I was sitting in church with them and basically just questioning everything that I knew that my grandparents believed and that this pastor believed, and everything that was in this book. And I was like, do I believe these things? Do I believe that God's real? And it was more just the basic questions, not like, is election true? Or no, it was, what is the point of all this? And as I got to high school, high school's a wild time.
Yeah.
I kind of, just didn't really care. Kind of slid into a lot of sin, and I lived a sinner's life. I was incredibly selfish. I wasn't really concerned with the thoughts and feelings of other people, and relationship with girls was very empty for me. But in 7th grade, so rewind just a little bit here. I met this guy sitting across the table from me. But the time that we had in middle school, I mean, we were buddies for sure, but it wasn't obviously like it is now in any stretch of the imagination. But our relationship started to really grow in high school because we were in the same section in band, and we spent, Seymour High School marching band, you basically live at school for, half the year. And he would kind of share his faith with me, but he would invite me to church, but he would never really try to shove it down my throat. And I say that because that was how I viewed it then, because I was like, I thought that's cool because that's what every Christian does. They just want to shove it down your throat, blah blah blah. Obviously, that's not the case, but that was my thinking back then. And then in these same years, I met my now girlfriend Monica, who essentially was pouring into me in the same ways. She was trying to share Christ with me without being judgmental or saying that what I was doing was necessarily wrong. I mean, if you're trying to share the gospel with somebody, you're definitely pointing out wrongs in their life, but you don't have to be hateful about it and turn them away.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for because in hindsight, at that time in our lives in high school, we were all immature. I mean, I think any one of us would say that. Not even, some of the stuff we did back then was probably stupid, but it's like you're a high school kid. When you're in high school, you have no idea what life is like. And the older I get, obviously, I understand that more and more every single day. But the two of them, Monica and Levi, were mature enough in faith to at least show Jesus to me with either their words or their actions or whatever. There was enough there that I could kind of latch on to. And so from high school, fast forward a little bit to August 16th, 2017, very specific day because I remember it like it was yesterday. At this point in my life, I guess I was a sophomore in college maybe. Honestly, I don't remember. I was 19. Maybe not a sophomore, maybe a freshman. But I was kind of like probably at the lowest point mentally and just the way that I felt probably that I'd ever been in my life. But I felt that, which maybe I'm crazy, but usually sinners don't care. They're not like, oh, I feel so bad about all the horrible things that I do. I mean, that's because they enjoy doing that. So the morning of August 16th, don't know why, but I watched this is the worst part of this story. I watched a sermon from Stephen Furtick. I was obviously immature then and ignorant, but I watched this sermon and I drew all kinds of stuff from it. I took so many notes.
Yeah, but God worked through Stephen Furtick.
He did work. I've still got the note sheet at my house. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I can get you the note sheet if you want to go on and watch that one. Maybe that one was okay. But he something about the way he was speaking, I felt like God was drawing me, and that after I watched that, I go take my shower, go about my day normally, and I just remember just breaking down in the bathroom floor and being like, God help me. I want to dedicate my life to you because that's what this life is about. So Christ, that was the moment where he pulled me out of the darkness, and here we are.
Hallelujah.
I sit. So that's a little bit about me. Levi, what you got for us?
Okay, well, I'm Levi. I'm 23 years old. Been married to a godly woman for about 2.5 years. So thankful for that. Also, about a little over a week ago, I became a father. So thankful for that. Little Mac Raymond Sanders.
Yeah.
He's doing great. Mom's doing great. So there's that. I work. I'm in the Tennessee Air National Guard as a mechanic. So that's part of my story. I also work as a jet mechanic commercially for a place called Standard Aero. Currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in Bible and theology. Hopefully done with that in December, but we'll see. And then plan on going on to seminary and studying theology there because I feel that God has called me to be a pastor or serve in some sort of ministry full time. Vocationally, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
But so that's my story. As far as my testimony, God was at work in my life at an early age. I was graciously born into a Christian home and raised in church. I do believe I was truly converted at the age of 8 under the preaching of a pastor at Shiloh Baptist Church in East Tennessee. Baptized there at the age of 8. And I do feel that God has continually been working in maturing me since that point. There's definitely been times where I grew exponentially in a short period of time, and times where it may have been a gradual growth. Times that I did get caught up in selfish things and just maybe wanting to spend more time doing things that I wanted to do instead of going to church or truly
how dare you
working in the Lord. Yeah. So so grateful though for the opportunity. I do feel like God is continuing to grow to grow me and call me to himself. So I don't feel like that's changed. But that's pretty much my testimony. So it's not very long. It's pretty short. And there's been times, like as I said, I guess I could elaborate on some of the times when I grew exponentially. Was like when I left for the military, went to Air Force basic training. That was drastically different for me. Growing up in the South, in what they call the Bible Belt, but there's not too much Bible in the Bible Belt. Growing up in that area, it was so different to be thrown into a place with people from all around the world. Sure. Different walks of life, different cultures, all that kind of stuff. I remember I woke up the first day of basic training. The guy beside me was he was coming out of the Mormon religion. So he was an ex-Mormon, I guess you would say. Now he was an atheist. The guy on the other side of me was from Africa, and he was a Muslim. And the guy across from me was actually wearing a Tennessee Vols T-shirt, and I was like,
"Oh yeah,
yes, I know him." So, but it's just, and that's just to say that there was people there from all walks of life, all cultures. It was different from what I had ever been in before. Sure. To feel like you are kind of alone in
which I would say is a very pivotal point, because situations like that, military, even college, stuff like that, you get into an environment with people with so many different views and stuff. It's either going to do one of two things. It's either going to shore up what you believe in currently, or it's going to start to break that down. And you're like, well, this guy thinks this way. What about this? Why don't I? What says he's wrong, or whatever. So that's definitely a crazy time.
Position of testing. To be surrounded, and that's really how the world is. I mean, we know that if you are a true biblical Christian in trying to live that lifestyle, you are alone in a lot of parts of the world. Regardless, I know we've talked before about sometimes when you go to work and it seems like you're alone. Yeah. But that's what we're called to do, is to still live out our faith in those situations. And as God strengthened me to be able to do that through basic training and being away from home, I grew a lot. So that was a time that I grew exponentially. So, but I do feel like God is continuing to call me to himself, continuing to help me mature, and it's been great. So couldn't be more thankful for that, and for friends like Hunter who have come along, and God has worked in their lives as well, and we can kind of figure this thing out together.
It makes it just a little bit easier.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, but me and Hunter both are youth leaders at Cedar Grove Baptist Church in East Tennessee, so Maryville, Tennessee. So that's a place that we both get to kind of help others understand and mature ourselves. I know through helping with the youth and teaching through the scripture, I've grown so much myself. I'm sure you can say the same thing. So, Hunter, if you would just kind of elaborate. I know we've touched on this already, but what's the purpose and vision for this Average Joe Theology Show? What do we want to do with this? what are some future ideas of grandeur that we may have?
So like we said before, what we want to do with this is to kind of give a podcast that people can listen to on their way to work or wherever, and give people kind of an environment where they can have, or at least feel like they're having similar conversations that we have in our own personal lives, which we're both very thankful that we have, because like he mentioned, like when I go to work, I don't have conversations like this. I try to talk about my faith sometimes, but a lot of times it's met with resistance. Not always. There are a few people that will, they're open to having a conversation, and they'll ask me questions, and then they may try to pose a disagreement and say, well, I've heard this, so what do you think about this? But for the most part, it's not a conversation that is encouraged to be had. So we kind of want to create something for people who don't have any kind of conversation like this, which is, I can't imagine what that would be like, because I grow a lot of times when I get in our group and start talking about things, and
Sure.
Levi always likes to just pull something out of the air and say, what do you guys think about this? And it honestly challenges us, because it's like, well, I've never even considered that. I've never read that passage that way. So you've just rocked my world. Let me learn about it. Let me look up all the articles on literally every website ever and try to figure out what's going on here. But that's kind of our goal here, is to provide that environment for people, and honestly to mature ourselves through this process, but also hopefully to mature whoever listens to this and provide some sort of benefit that can help you grow as a believer, and then you can go out and maybe share the things that we've talked about here, whether it be theology, like specifically theology, like what we think about tulip or whatever, or if we are talking about apologetics, because that's a big thing that sometimes I struggle with.
What is apologetics? What's a short definition of apologetics?
Apologetics is kind of a reasoned approach, if you don't know, to essentially explaining and defending what it is that you believe in. And usually, obviously in our circles, apologetics is used for the Christian faith.
The defense of the Christian faith.
Yeah. So that's an important thing, because a lot of people can know their Bibles, but when people start asking, well, why if God's so great, why does he allow evil?
Yeah. Why isn't everyone saved?
So it's important.
Or when people say things like Christianity and Islam have the same God.
Right.
What's your response to that?
Right. You have to know how to kind of combat these things, and that's not to say that we have all of the answers, but
most definitely not.
We definitely want to try to seek to find the answer, and then when we find it, share it with you guys if you don't already have the answer for yourself, or if you do, then you can correct us, because we're just a couple of average dudes trying to figure this out. So that's the whole point here. But the biggest thing is, obviously, like we said, that we want to provide something for other people that is edifying, as maybe Albert Mohler would say. So that's kind of our purpose here, and hopefully you guys can listen to this and say, well, we really enjoy when you talk about theology, or ask us questions like, well, how should Christians view this subject? That would literally anything that pertains to this book is what we're here to talk about, and that's something that, like I said, that we do in our friend group all the time, and we just want to bring it to you guys and edify you, build you up.
Well, as Christians, theology should be a part of every section of our lives. Just talking about God, right? So, how does God work His way into every aspect of our lives, as He should, if we're Christians? So, we just hope to, and as Christians, we should seek the truth. God has given us the truth, a universal, across the board truth, and we should seek that truth. And a lot of times we do get it wrong along the way.
Yep.
But the goal is to seek what we can. And there's parts of this book we'll never understand until we get to glory. But we should seek to understand it. And as Hunter pointed out, that's really the pushback a lot of times these days is we live in a world that, as the psychologists would call, or sociologists would call, postmodern.
Yep.
In that people don't believe there is truth, right? People can make their own truth or whatever, but God has given us the truth. And as Christians, whether it be strictly what does God say about a certain subject in this book, or how does God picture that we should live in certain times as we find ourselves today. What does God say about when you have to live in isolation, or when the government gives you commandments, or when racism is being talked about? Yeah. So what does God tell us is the truth in these situations? So that's really what we want to talk about going forward. I hope you look forward to the next episode. We won't just talk about ourselves. It won't be so self-serving, as you, if you will. We'll talk about topics. So what can you do now? Well, I would just suggest, if this sounds like something you're interested in these conversations or in this community that we hope to build, just subscribe to the show, whether it be in audio form on Apple Music or iTunes, or I guess that is Apple Music, or Spotify, or whether it be on video form on YouTube. Subscribe to the show. Let us know you're interested. Also, we have a website, so just go to averagejoetheology.com. It is not launched yet, but you can put in your email address to be alerted when it's launched. and our vision for that website is to have a place where we can have conversations together, a place where we can, you guys can send in questions or topics for us to talk about on the podcast. Also a place where we can have blog posts or recommended books or book reviews, or anything that pertains to doing theology, living the Christian life, and what that looks like. So we're so thankful that you tuned in, and we look forward to the next episode, and we hope you do as well.